Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Since you already know who it is and what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to go ahead and get started with the message. In my recording, Sapphire Played Us All, I stated how the Sapphire is playing both the chosen and the unchosen men, the selected and the unselected, and that the difference is merely that the unselected men get disrespected more than the men that sisters select. I stated that they were playing both of us by telling the unchosen men to be the food on the plantation and that we're not good for anything else, and by telling the chosen men to be the guards and the overseers to keep normal men like the majority of us on the plantation growing the crops that we're not going to get to eat so that they can feed the men that they do want and screw them for free. I recorded that the day before I learned about the verdict and the sentence that Amber Geiger faced and the treatment she was getting. Then later on, I learned about it and I had not yet uploaded it. So I updated the recording, then uploaded it. The verdict, the sentence, and the treatment she got added so much context to what I recorded that I had to change it. Then I recorded something for those who were about to start blaming us black men for the Jason Roger Pope fiasco. And sure enough, we got it. These things came out and I uploaded what I had previously recorded in response. As I listened to what YouTubers had to say about it, though, I was in the shower and I learned something from Edward Anderson, BGS, and then later on Kirigakure Jones because it was on a playlist. And when I learned from them, ironically, not knowing that this would be featured in all of their recordings, at the time that I chose them for the playlist, it was playing, I was cleaning up, I was drying up, getting dressed, and as I was doing all of this, these things began to play, and the same information was in all three of them. The bed-wenching has gone on for centuries. We've had to deal with the fact that sisters have been both for and against the oppression of black people, even back in the motherland. There being a queen who turned down any marriage proposals until she eradicated the slave trade from her jurisdiction. I knew about her. And there being other women who willingly became concubines to these cracker kidnappers, slapping in the face every black man from whom they had demands and to whom they held standards, and slapping in the face every black woman that actually got raped by some damn devil. This whole dropping standards for zaddy is as old as the slave trader, apparently. Now, I want the sisters who have been down for us to get credit, but I'm going to get to that in a bit. You get the credit, especially from me, and y'all know who you are. Whether you and I have met before or not, you know who you are. Take this credit, but I'm going to get to that later on. The whole dropping standards for zaddy is as old as the slave trade, and that's unforgivable. Only black men in the West, both selected and unselected, are held by their own women to meet the stereotypes applied to them by the enemy in the first doggone place. Nobody else is judged by their own women by the enemy's stereotypes of them. Black women in the motherland are not insisting on their men walking around with loincloths on and bones in their noses and carrying spears around, are they? No, not at all. In Jamaica, Jamaican women do want their men to be shatta, badman and rude boy. Yeah, they want that. But you can't tell me that they insist that he has dreads and smoke weeds all day and carries a machete around. Now, they don't insist on that. They want bad man and rude boy? Yeah, that's bad enough. But they're not saying, okay, well, the way that everybody stereotypes us is what you have to be. No, you can't say that. But Lord have mercy, whether you're a selected guy or not in the West, mostly the USA, Canada, and the UK, you not only have to be different from white men, which is actually a good standard to have, but you must be that white guy's stereotype of yourself, a cartoon of yourself, for her to decide that you even man enough. You can't tell black people to walk the straight path until you have walked the unstraight, stereotypical, corrupt nigger path that exists for you in the minds of those who stereotype you. Imagine that. No Aussie black man has to be that. No Somali black man has to be that. Arab men, black or non-black, don't have to strap bombs to themselves to be considered manly by their own women, let alone attractive. But the Western black man has to be his worst enemy's mental image of himself. And we know what they feel the most for us is fear and hatred. So our own sisters are saying that we have to become fearsome and hate-inspiring in others. If we don't inspire the fear and hatred in others, we aren't men to begin with. And this is what they feel towards us. If you select, you're not only select because you're manly in their eyes, you're manly in their eyes because you inspire fear in others who don't deserve to be afraid to begin with. even though it's not even in human nature to go around trying to scare everybody else. Not only because you developed yourself somehow, but because white men fear you and other men fear you and hate you. Imagine that. If you are not select, it's because you don't fit this negativity. She wants to be a grieving widow in the end, and if you're not one of those men on the road to making her a grieving widow by being non-stereotypical, then you're boycotted by them, you're punished for them, not only romantically and genetically and sexually either. No, you're boycotted overall by both genders in the teens, then by females only in adulthood. What does this tell you? Black men grow up in the West, black women in the West do not grow up. Your observations aren't even considered, as though you made them up to begin with when you're not one of these stereotypes. So run and tell the others that there's a world outside of Europe and the USA and Canada. Tell them that Africa is actually worth visiting, that it's different places and they're not all the same. Tell them to pick a country and contact that nation's embassy to get the visa and give it a shot if you even need the visa. And it's the sisters that will laugh at you harder than brothers will. In either case, you're forced into meeting a standard that is dangerous as hell, and if you refuse to meet it, risking your life in violence, then you were trained to ruin the quality of the life you did not throw away and risk by taking care of only other men's kids and paying out alimony as some kind of penalty. So either you drain your life for them and don't enjoy it, or you throw it away, proving that you King Kong. And in the end, there's a man that doesn't have to do either one or even satisfy her hypergamy. And not only is he not you, but he is in fact your enemy and her worst enemy to begin with. We're the only ones that face this. UK brothers. Now, if Australian brothers got to face this from black Australian women, let me know. I don't know anything about that yet, but I know in the UK, the US, Canada, yeah, you got to be a stereotype, someone else's negative stereotype of you. To a certain extent, it's true in Latin American communities too, mostly in the Mexican community. I know that exists as well. You got to be cholo, gangster. And you're judged by that even in adulthood. I'm aware of that, but I'm not dealing with that at this point. Brothers, there are many sisters who are on our side, but they have their own men, and they're not that loud and they're not that vocal. They're not going to be on Housewives of Atlanta. So we can't really discuss them that much because they're so private and they're busy raising their babies and looking after their own men. So sisters, I know that you're there, but I don't know who you are because you're not out there in the public. So while you do exist, there aren't enough of you to go around. But I want you to know that you do get the credit for me you've earned. The issue is that we are all affected by the ones that are brainwashed and broken, and we can't lead them on a straight path because those of us that are already on a straight path are automatically considered too unattractive to them because of that straight path for them to listen to us telling them that this path is the straight path and it's not going to hurt to get on it. You got to come with scars from the crooked path before you can say, this ain't what you want, go on that straight path. It's better to get that passport if you can, and if you can't, then to never marry in front of the state. And this is why. That's what it comes down to. In one regard, I'm going to say that Sapphire is still better than Becky, and here's why. Becky wants the bad. She wants the bad boy. And when Becky treats you better as a brother, it's only because she thinks that at some point you got more of that bad boy in you than her own man has in him. She thinks that maybe it's latent in you. Not a man, not a defender and a protector, which is normal, but bad man, the rude boy, the gangster, the thug, the stereotype. She believes that that beast is latent and dormant in you. She believes that. And if she doesn't believe it, she still believes that you can scare people away from ever hurting her. That's why she might treat you better in the beginning. But I also want you to understand this. When she wants that bad dude, that rude boy, she doesn't want the reformed bad boy. That's something that the sister wants. Sometimes sister she grows older and then she wants the reformed bad boy, but she don't want the guy that was never bad to begin with, the one that was always on that straight path his whole life. She still don't want that. But at least she'll take someone that's on that path as long as he can convince her that he used to not be on it. That's that little bit, that smidget, as childish as it is, there's that smidget of hope for her, whereas Becky does not want that at all to begin with. At the end of the day, either way it goes, though, we're the only men being judged this way. And we're going to have to just get them passports and bounce until they change who the hell they are. That's it. Brothers, you're right. It ain't perfect abroad. It never has been. I deal with racism and colorism here in this country, but at least I get to deal with it and confront it and keep my job. When you deal with it and you confront it in the U.S., you know you don't keep your job. You know how that works. So that being said, you got to get them passports, man. You don't have a choice, because there are more women than there are men in our community, but there are more good men than there are good women in our community. And you can't afford to waste everything you had to work for on a bad woman that is demanding that you give her the same stuff that she would not demand from you if you were no good nigga to begin with. It's a trap. Get them passports. And if you can't, don't marry. If you can't get a passport, get a vasectomy. And don't marry in front of the state. I am dead serious. Dead serious. I'm a Muslim who's not allowed to advocate vasectomies, telling you that if you're stuck in the West and you can't get out, get a vasectomy. Marry religiously, sure, fine, but don't do it in front of the state and have your vasectomy, because she's not going to listen to you when you're right and she's wrong about how to raise them kids. And that's real. I hope that this message has been of benefit, but I also hope that one day it's not true anymore. Sisters, the only way to make it untrue is for you to change who the hell you are. I hope this has been a benefit, but I wish it wasn't the case. Assalamu alaikum.